Wonderful. Thank you both so much. I think this was a really great presentation, very informative. I see a ton of potential for application of this tool into our work in the Green Commodities program. And I'll be interested to hear other people's reflections as well. We did go a bit over time with that, and so we will have to have a shorter Q&A period if we want to have discussions. So I want to keep it to about like 5 minutes. So if anyone has some burning questions or reflections, then we can do it now. Otherwise, we can save it for the breakout groups. So anyone? No, is that?
Yes. Yes, I was waiting for other people, but I have a clarifying question. Excellent job. I thought that was fantastic. And Fuad, you made a comment. You said gender sensitive value chains are more something than gender blind value chains. Do you happen to remember what that was?
Sure. Well, this is exactly, sorry, this is the core experiment we're trying to establish here. Again, is to build a business case, and we have been finding some facts, and we're looking to other value chains to analyze them the same way and test again the experimental tool to see if we're gonna come up with the same conclusions. And what I was trying to say is that gender sensitive value chains can be more competitive, more performant, you know, compared to male dominated value chains or value chains kind of things. So this is what is at the core of the experiment we're trying to do here, is to try to find the link and the interconnection between gender equality and mainstreaming gender into a given value chain, whether we're talking about, let's say, commodity-based value chain, like an upgraded version of that commodity value chain, talking about the EBS and the, you know, the genetic resource and the R&D part of it, and you know, make a business case out of that.
Perfect. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any questions for the group before we break out? No? Okay. Well, then what we're going to do now is break into small groups. Matthias has arranged everyone into, we'll do groups of 4, I believe. And I want to take a minute to quickly welcome Vanessa and Afua and Rafaela, who have joined us since we started. So thank you, everyone. I would invite people to turn on your camera for this next section and for the remainder of the call, if you can. And what we're going to do is we're going to break into small groups. We will be there for, let's say, 10 minutes before we come back together into the large group. Fuad and Nadira will visit a couple of the groups and sort of jump in and out, and I will visit a couple of the other groups, and we'll sort of spread ourselves around to participate in the discussion. I'd like to share my screen again, if I may. Fuad, do you mind unsharing your screen?
Sure, so I'll just exit. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so I have some discussion questions here, which we will not have time for each group to discuss each of them. So you can choose a discussion question in your group. And if you have time to talk about more than one, that's great. But these are some sort of prompts for your thinking. And what I'd like is for each group to choose one person at the beginning, designate one person to take notes, keep track of the key points, and then we're going to come back together as a group, and I'm going to ask you to share those key points. So Matthias, will you tell everyone how we get into the groups, please?
Yeah, just stay there. I'm arranging it. Just a couple seconds here.
Perfect, thank you. All right, well, enjoy your groups, and we will come back together in about 10 minutes. I think. And it looks like we have more cameras up, so that's great. I will send these questions through the chat so everybody has them also.
Just a few seconds.
All right, well.
All right, I'm sending you right now.
Okay. Matthias, we have some stragglers, Caroline and Vanessa. I don't know why he didn't put you in groups, guys. Okay, well, I hope that everyone's conversation was fruitful. I'm gonna pull my PowerPoint back up.
I agree with you though.
Okay, so what I'd like to do in the interest of adhering to our schedule and trying to close very close because we're on time. What I'll do is I'm going to go through the different groups and I'm going to ask the designated person, whoever that is, to share the key points, and then I'll go through and I'm going to try to write down for each question. So tell me which question you focused on, and then we'll write the key points. So how about Marguerite? Who was the person from your group?
That was me, and this is our question. Yeah.
The number 3?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So we discussed the various projects. I think one key comment that was made is if women are already organized in groups, it's of course an easier way to organize them and to pull them in. For example, if you are on a multi-stakeholder level and in dialogue. That was one focus. And the other one was, of course, to be even realize who could be gender champions or even women's group. Sandra spoke of the fisheries project to first figure out what's potentially the root causes of women not yet speaking of or not being organized and therefore not visible, to understand what's the best way then to pull them in. I shared that within the cocoa growing communities, having male gender champions for the work we're doing is very important if we're trying to change underlying social and cultural norms. And for men to champion, for example, and demonstrate to the others, like a new division of the household labor or childcare, as this is probably often more powerful than trying to do women's activities on their own, because then sometimes men actually disengage because they're like, this is not for us. And I think that's it in short. Ladies, I hope I captured it.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
I'm not sure who is in which group, so I'm going to say Emilio. Which group were you in? Who is the designated person?
I was the note person, but I don't think we had a designated person to share. I was taking notes. I can share some of the main points, and by all means, Vanessa, Margaret, Mel, feel free to jump in with your ideas. So we were tackling question 1.
Okay.
So some of the things that Margaret said was that the work they're currently doing is similar to Mind Your Steps. And so there's been the initial steps of analyzing the literature review, then circulating the drafts of the documents to their experts to get their feedback on that. And there's some of the ideas that were suggested is to move to require focus groups, which will be, I guess, the third step. I don't know if you want to share anything, Margaret, on the last comments you were making.
No, let's move on to the other ones. That's about it.
And then Mel was mentioning some of the original grassroots ideas and coordinating conversations with both men and women at the local level. But I think what I really like from that and what we're sharing is some ideas for the future. So ideas of how to incorporate technology to, for example, to protect anonymity by making it a not disclosing of who the researcher is. So also allowing the person to protect their anonymity and to feel more comfortable sharing their answers. So ideas for incorporating these case studies through the use of technology will be really interesting.
And also, Colleen, I also added at the very last minute that I know that the IFC has a very strong gender department, and they, over the years, have developed a decadal practice area on mining, and they created a stakeholder engagement toolkit that was very gender sensitive and aware, and was based on 10 years of experience. So I recommended that as a toolkit for others to look at.
Great, thank you. Okay, wonderful. Anything else from that group? No? Wonderful. How about Lisa?
Yeah, Karen's reporting back for us.
Great.
Hi everyone. We were discussing question number 2, and we took 2 questions. For example, the first one is, how do you even begin to address the issue when the cultural change of women is a decade-long process? And how do you begin with these issues? And also, there's also the fact that women make half of the workforce, increase. Women don't have very much access to land rights, and that's something that applies worldwide, but it accentuates in different countries. So that's for the question of how do you begin to address the issue of women not being able to have land ownership, not being able to have access to their own finances. And there's also the focus on empowering women through helping them achieve financial ownership of their own money that they make. So there was also the question that the fact, that women tend to spend their money on nutrition and educations. So that is also an important fact to be kept in mind. Also, there's the issue that some people don't want to address, the fact that there's still cultural rules in countries, and that's something that we need to be willing to address. So those are what the notes that I have. So I don't know if Lisa, you want to add something more, or
No,
Owen.
that's great. That's great. Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's see. How about Aline? Who is the note taker for your group?
Valeria was taking the notes.
Yeah. We are also working in question number 2. And I'm not sure if we really answered the question, but we did talk some things related to the question. And one of the things that we talked was that, and kind of related to what the other group answered, is that one of the things that's important for empowering women so that the business competitiveness part increases is that we need to empower women also in having access for them to have access to land and resources. Because even though you can give them empowerment in the marketing area, if you don't give them power in having them access the land that they will be taking care of and producing, that will still not give them the complete empowerment on the value chain. We were also talking that although there might be a niche and a market for women's enterprises and women-only businesses, those businesses are, and those cases sometimes are still very in a micro level and very small. And we need to go forward and take that into the bigger enterprises and the owners of bigger value chains. So we're seeing that there is a market for women-only value chains and own businesses, but we need to go further into a next level, I think. And we obviously see that decision-making and having power for women to make decision-making in spaces in the private sector is still not happening. And as we saw in the presentation, those spaces, like in research and development, they're not having those spaces, and it's very important to empower women in those spaces to increase their competitiveness. And I'm not sure if I'm missing something. Yeah, I don't know if anyone in my group, if I missed something, please feel free to add.
Anyone?
Only want to say that I think it's important to be able to find a way to track and measure empowerment, because oftentimes it sort of becomes an abstract concept because it's not really always easily. Yeah. I think a study was done in Ghana on about 3 or so value chains some few years ago by World Food Program, and they started to develop some tools. I have to go and see if I can find that report.
That'd be great, thanks. Okay, did I miss any of the groups, or is that everyone? Everyone's group spoke? Okay, wonderful. Well, I have to say, I'm very pleased that you broke yourselves up into the 3 groups pretty evenly. That's lucky. And so these key points, I might go in and clean them up just a tiny bit, but I'll share the presentation with everyone. And so you'll have these points and our collective work for your own records as well, if that's useful for you. And we'll share Fuad's presentation as well, Fuad and Nadira. So I want to thank everyone very much for your participation today. And I want to especially thank Fuad and Nadira for the wonderful presentation. I am so glad that you were able to join us. I think it was really rich, and I think we can all take something from it. So that is all I have. And again, in the interest of time, I want to get you out of here as promised. But does anyone have any final words before we close? No? Okay, so I'll just say, oh, go ahead. I thought someone jumped in. No? Okay, then I'll just say it for next steps. If anyone has any questions or comments related to this learning stream, then please send me an email. My email address you all have, because I've been bombarding you with emails the last couple of days, but nonetheless, there it is. I'll respond within 3 days. And we're planning for another gender workshop in January. And again, really want this workshop, this whole learning stream to be useful and interesting and applicable for your own work. So if you have any suggestions for topics, please share. I'm happy to do that. And then, oops, you can see that I used a different presentation. I'll just change that right there. So there will be a Google Drive set up for this learning stream, and you'll get that link as well. So the tools and presentations that Mill and Ronald specifically mentioned, but if anybody else has anything to contribute, then please send those to me and we'll upload them to the folder. So that's it. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.